Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today I have Kay Wilson-Bolton on the line, and she is Volunteer Director of Spirit of Santa Paula. Kay, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Adam. I'm really delighted to be with you this morning.
All right, Kay. So really excited to have you here. And we have an important topic to cover today. So we'll be talking about really the spectrum of homelessness. Like, what does that mean? What are some of the misconceptions that maybe some people out there have? So I'm excited to really shed light on that topic, and also to give people an opportunity to get involved and see how they can help out and what they can do to make a difference. But to get us kicked off, Kay, we'll start this episode like we start them all with our Mission Matters Minute. So, Kay, we at Mission Matters, we amplify stories for entrepreneurs, executives, and experts. That's our mission. Kay, what mission matters to you?
Quite honestly, I'd like to live in a community where everyone is treated equally, and that we have no homeless people, and we have services for people who just need a hand up. The real goal is to prevent homelessness alongside of solving it. And it's a complicated problem because the face of homelessness has changed, and you can drive along any freeway in a metropolitan area and see how that population is growing. We have to identify the reasons for that. They're not all drug or alcohol related, and it's becoming a real economic problem in most communities now.
So excited to have you on the show because you are an expert in that field, and you've been working in this area for quite some time. And maybe just to get us kicked off, like, tell us a little bit more about how you got started on this path down to really helping the homeless.
Well, it's really being at the right place at the right time, accidentally. I'm a chaplain with Ventura County Fire Department, and on Christmas Eve in 2008,
wow,
I got a call from the captain telling me that a homeless man had died in one of our churches. And at that point in time, I didn't even know that our community had homeless people.
Wow.
And if I did know, we would have probably agreed with most of the population that they deserve it, they want to be homeless, it's their fault, and their life choices up to that point have caused that. And so on that call, I saw 13 homeless people who had been let in a church by the janitor, and one of them died. And so that was my introduction to homelessness in my community. And from there, we decided to figure out how we can address it, if not solve it.
So in being one of the founding members of Spirit of Santa Paula, I mean, take us a little bit further down the line. So how did that come about?
We were formed in 2002. There were 6 business people who came together to really want to do something good for our community. We had just come off of a very contentious land use initiative that in our community separated the haves and the have-nots. One group wanted affordable housing component. The other group wanted luxury housing, and both have benefits to a community, but it was very divisive, and the fallout from that was lack of communication between the groups. And so we wanted to fill that gap, and we did. And we started in 2002 with absolutely no idea that our direction would go in the path that it did in the homeless side. It wasn't on the radar. We didn't even think about it until that Christmas Eve, rainy, cold, and a homeless man died in a church. He was only 35 years old. Family lived in Santa Paula. And I wondered how it could be that somebody that young with family, hopefully with some kind of connection to them, could die. But if the medical examiner said, "Okay, he was going to die somewhere tonight," how nice he was in a church. Wow. So that kicked us off. And so you never know what's going to happen when you decide you want to do something good. Because we trust God a lot to take us in the direction we need to go. And he surprised all of us.
Hmm. Wow. Yeah. As you were describing that, and I'm thinking about the dates. So that, the event with that gentleman happened in the church in 2008. This organization was formed in 2002. So that change in direction that took place 6 years later after the inception of the organization. Like, tell me what went into that. I feel like that the organization, its members, or the leaders within it, I mean, they're pretty forward thinking to be able to make that pivot, to make that change. Like, tell me what went into that decision.
It was a sudden pivot. My board of directors are amazing.
Yeah.
So in 2002, we incorporated, not really knowing why, but thinking just way ahead that it would be a great tool to have for whatever was down the road. But when you think about it, it took 6 years of sort of gathering thoughts. We had a big community event that brought the groups together. And we had actually 2 events just to start dialoguing, because the lack of communication had caused the problem, and it was made worse when the vote came in and then all communication stopped. So the pivot was sudden. And I went to my board and said, we had a homeless man die last night.
Wow.
And they said, well, let's do something. So we started with a hot meal. 2 weeks later, 47 homeless people came for dinner.
Yeah.
And email was kind of in its infancy at that time. And I remember writing an email to, I think, 12 or 15 of my friends who had email, and said, you're cooking tonight for your family. Please cook a dish for us. So we went that direction for a few months. We outgrew the church. And then the next year, we used the same church for a shelter. And that was so hard that winter. It was cold, and we slept on the floor together. And, the church was nervous that you have homeless people without good supervision. So I actually stayed. That was a challenging event because I'm still a full-time real estate broker. And to go to work the next day, bleary, was really a challenge. And if you remember, the economy then was suffering.
Oh, yeah. I'm also thinking about 2008. That's the housing crisis. So that's like one of the biggest things. I mean, the previous thing would be like 2002 tech wreck. So this time to be doing this, I'm like, wow, not only was it majorly needed, but the whole economy, everybody, the whole world was changing.
It was. And it actually accelerated the homeless issue. People were losing their homes and being evicted by banks, all the lender fraud, and realtors were right in that too. So I don't want to throw lenders under the bus. Yeah. But we all had a part in it. Anytime a buyer bought a listing of ours that he made $10,000 a month as a gardener and a fabricated loan letter, we all had a part in that. So so that homelessness, the face of it changed then, because we started seeing families in cars. And so we had to adjust to make sure we were meeting the need and recognizing how it was changing. And one of the challenges was our community was not ready to help homeless people. You always find a few good souls who, want to lend a helping hand. We are a brother's keeper. Yes, we can do this. But there were many who felt that helping the homeless population was creating a worse problem and drawing people into the community who, quote, didn't belong here. And none of that happened. But we had to prove ourselves. We had to stay steady. I lost friends over it. I lost a lot of connections over that issue because I had decided where I was going to stand. And it was against the business community who felt the homeless people would impact business even further. Yeah. So there was a lot to overcome besides just addressing the homeless issue and helping someone. And at that time, there wasn't the focus on funding that there is today. And when you think of how far our country has come in understanding, meeting the needs, and dealing with the problems, we really have, it's a 180-degree turn from where it was at that time.
And so you mentioned a moment or two ago, you mentioned that, when you're talking about your mission, that many people may have thought, including yourself and myself as well, prior to having some experience volunteering when I worked for the Vanguard Group in Phoenix. We volunteer at the shelter over there. But prior to having that experience, I was much the way that you mentioned. So if you thought maybe there had to be some like type of, drug abuse or some other things that made, or mental illness or something else that, made somebody homeless ultimately, which of course that's a percentage, but possibly a lot different of a percentage, or the actual complexion of what the homeless population looks like is probably a lot more different than what people would imagine. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you've seen and the real outlook of the people that are homeless?
The argument, and I guess it is an argument, is whether or not mental illness causes homelessness and drug addiction and the worsening of people with those challenges, substance abuse, or is the drug abuse and substance abuse resulting in mental issues. And I frankly think it's both. If you think about the families who have someone close to them who's living with them who becomes violent, stealing the family jewelry, the rent money, keys to the car, they don't want them living with them. They burn their bridges, and so they are cast out of the home. And where do they go? What do they do? How do they eat? How do they charge their phone? Where do they sleep? And once they become sleep deprived, the whole spectrum of behavior changes. And we see mental illness on the rise as a result of many things. And so it's creating a perfect storm for, I think, a blowout in the homeless numbers. Because in California, I'm in Ventura County, rents are outrageous. And because owners have been able to raise rents, they have, and it has displaced people. The COVID environment sort of shut that down for a while. Pouring money into it, and there's arguments about that. We have one tenant in my property management company who was behind $12,000. The money from this organization, but it didn't go to the landlord. It went to the tenant. So he doesn't pay. The moratorium is now up. He gets evicted, and he got his $12,000. So there's some failings in every program when you try to administer a lot of money. Certainly, watching the rise in rents, the NIMBY attitude is beginning to change a bit when you see the addition of tiny homes and accessory dwelling units being a priority in the state of California now. People are looking at that differently. And we need to see more housing. You cannot give a homeless person a key to an apartment and expect good things are going to happen. You have to apply case management to that. That's another whole level of funding and expertise that comes with trained people who now know how to connect people to services. So yes, housing first, because nobody is going to get well, I promise you. Stay in the riverbed, by the tracks, in the streets, and become a non-addict if you don't provide case management and housing.
What are some of the, and I don't want to oversimplify this because I know there's a lot of different moving pieces here and a lot of factors to this, but what are some of the barriers that you find maybe that are out there to really ending homelessness?
The major barrier is housing and lack of it. If you think about how hot it's getting in the Central Valley of California, down through Palm Springs, the Coachella Valley, people, I don't know how we can survive that heat. So people are going to come towards the coast, which is where we are. And the demand for housing is going to increase. We need to look at housing differently. What is an acceptable dwelling unit? Is it a studio for 5 people? Is it a studio for 2? What can we accommodate? What is our threshold for tolerance? Do we want accessory dwelling units in the backyards of our neighbors? That creates extra activity. But if we don't do that, if we don't look at every option for solving homelessness, we're going to actually be creating a bigger problem, because doors are going to close and people are going to be left on the streets. At our shelter, we've had, at one time, we've had 15 children, and we have a capacity of 49 people.
Hmm.
which is not unusual for a shelter because you have to manage that number of people, 3 meals a day, bathroom, showers, clean
Yeah.
clothes. When you have 15 kids, I mean, when did that happen? One
Yeah.
family, one mom has 6 children, and
Mm.
she was with us for a while. Some wonderful landlord decided he was going to give her a chance. She had a housing voucher,
Yeah.
and he rented a place to her. So she was able to move out thanks to good case management. And she's a full-time mom working. So she
Yeah.
had her own credentials that made her, a good candidate. But the thought of 6 children scares most landlords, even though, they shouldn't. They want to protect their property, and no
Hmm.
one blames them for that. But the barrier to real housing is getting people to buy into the idea that housing has to come first. And yes, in my neighborhood, not no in my neighborhood.
Yeah. And so shifting focus back to the Spirit of Santa Paula. So beyond the shelter, I mean, what's next for the organization?
What we know is without a skill
Mm.
in the progression of homelessness to be able to any job, welding, car mechanic,
Yeah.
and it doesn't have to be a job that requires a college degree. We need tradespeople who can
Hmm.
fix cars, fix plumbing, do lighting, handyman, gardening, all of the job
Hmm.
categories that we think would be not professional,
Yeah.
but tradespeople. We want to create an environment where we take a person who's homeless, and I wish there was a better word, but if we disguise the word homelessness like
Yeah.
unsheltered, for example, you kind of miss the point that they're
Hmm.
homeless. And so I'm going to just use the word. So take a homeless person, take
Hmm.
them through case management. They need their birth certificate, their
Hmm.
ID, they need a green card, they need proper credentialing
Yeah.
for the being documented. We have a lot of undocumented people who want to work
Hmm.
in the fields where documented people don't. And so taking them with the basics, then moving them into a program that we're developing called Launch.
Mm.
And Launch is going to create the environment for skill development. Many of our people didn't finish high school, and so they're limited then on job opportunities.
Yeah.
Some of them need that extra help paying off debts that they incurred through traffic violations.
Hmm.
We have an organization, it's program through our Ventura County court system called Homeless Court, where
Mm.
someone can actually work off their fines by volunteering. Someone
Wow.
in our shelter gets 2 hours credit every night they're with us. So if we can reduce the barrier of getting, those fines paid,
Hmm.
most all of them had a driver's license at one time. They had a
Yeah.
ticket. So now the car that they had has been towed because they didn't register it.
Hmm.
None of them have savings so that when the tire blows or the battery goes dead
Yeah.
or some small incident to us, maybe, it
Yeah.
totally derails them. So the launch program is going to equip them to take the next steps to living a normal life. And a normal life is 3 meals a day,
Yeah.
generally, housing, shower, refrigerator, washer, dryer, access,
Hmm.
health care. We have a program where a mobile clinic goes to one of our churches on Fridays and
Wow.
treats the street people who are in sort of their own category. Street
Hmm.
people, they want to do it their way.
Yeah.
People who want to come into the shelter see it differently and want to do it another way. So we
Hmm.
have a street outreach program that's tailored to people, kind of the Lone Ranger out there, and
Yeah.
the opportunities to do what they do. And then the others who are the families and people who really want to get connected and
Hmm.
change their life. Nobody wants to be homeless
Yeah.
in a shelter. People who are drug addicted,
Hmm.
they want to be homeless so they can do their thing.
Yeah.
But if you said, "Hey, I'll give you a key to an apartment," they'll accept it, but they don't want to do the work towards getting themselves into the steps that are required to
Hmm.
live that normal life that we were designed to live. We were not designed to live homeless, or the Bible says work is good for us and it keeps
Yeah.
us busy, and provides for families. Everybody gets to sit under their own vine, and that's the part we want to take our program to, so that we're equipping people and not just casting them out and saying good luck and hope you make it. They're not going to make it.
What a great program, that launch program. And I think all of these steps and all the things that I'm hearing here, I mean, the theme is that, sometimes people fall in hard times, right? For different reasons. And sometimes all they need is a little bit of boost, a little bit of help, like that launch program that you're mentioning, like a little vocational training, like other things that can, give somebody maybe an opportunity that they didn't have before. And I love that you bring up the fact of, maybe a battery goes out, a tire, something else that maybe for somebody else would be nothing, but for somebody, that ends up homeless, it might have been one of the things that caused them to lose their job. They couldn't get to work. Now they can't get to work. Now they can't pay their bills. Time passes. Now all of a sudden they don't have a place to live, and it just keeps on going from there and there. Now somebody might be, on the street, and they might be exposed to other things they're not used to, or another type of lifestyle. And then, as you mentioned earlier in the interview about sleep deprivation, once some of these other factors go into the equation, then the whole situation can pretty much spiral from bad to much worse. So, but the main thing here is that people don't necessarily want to be homeless, right?
Yeah, and you raised a good point about preventing homelessness. We have a fund that we try to help somebody with the battery, with the tire. If they can't get to work, the financial source is cut off, and there they go into a homeless environment. So if we can prevent it, it is much easier and less expensive to keep them sheltered than it is to get them back in it, because their credit report is shot. And with the demand for rental housing now so huge and it's so expensive, so many people are just automatically eliminated from taking that step, even if they want to.
Yeah. What do benchmarks of success look like as you kind of progress on this journey of, helping the homeless population?
There are several. And one is someone saying, I want to get clean and sober. Ventura County has amazing resources for that. The sad part is they have to be sober for 48 hours. Many of our people, after they've blitzed on something, they'll come in and say, okay, I'm ready, because now they're equipped for the next 24 hours or so. But they have to want to do the work. And part of our case management and the volunteer environment is to instill in them, yes, you can do it. Yes, it's worth it. Is it hard? Absolutely. But how hard is this? How hard is it to be constantly looking for your next fix? Panhandling and all the things that go with that.
Yeah.
So if somebody says, I'm ready, that's a benchmark. If somebody says, I'm ready for case management, I don't want to be left alone anymore, what do I need to do? That's a benchmark. And so we've got to be patient, because there is no magic wand anywhere on the planet to solve homelessness. It's one person at a time, one family at a time. And you have to have the resources to work with them and identify what it is they're willing to do, and then the programs that you send them to, and kind of let them take over. And there are many times they can go into certain kinds of programs but still need shelter.
Yeah.
Sadly, I've got a couple of people who've been with me for 2 years, but the COVID environment shut down, I believe, our ability to say, you're done, your time's up, you have to leave. Because where do you go? We cannot create another homeless person. A sheltered person, it can be homeless, but a homeless person is not sheltered in any way. And so just to be patient and continuing moving them along steps that they're willing to take. And until they say, I'm ready, I can't do anything except take care of them.
So, Kay, there'll be a lot of people watching this, and they're thinking about ways that they can get involved, ways that they can help. What's the best way for somebody to get involved with Spirit of Santa Paula?
Well, let me recommend two things. One is, if you're in an area that has a problem of homelessness, go find somebody and support them, volunteer with them, step up and say, what can I do? How can I help you? And if there is no one, and the smaller communities suffer more,
Mm.
than the larger communities where there's just a bigger budget.
Mm-hmm.
We would not have a shelter were it not for this amazing woman named Naomi Pitcairn, who
Wow.
lived in Santa Paula for a short time. She bought a big building as an investment and decided one day to give it to us. And
Mm.
she had a passion already for the homeless problem.
Mm-hmm.
And she deeded the building on Valentine's Day last year.
Wow.
And so, I mean, that's a huge step up for us in our service providing. Not every community has somebody like that, but every community has somebody with money, and they need to be kind of pulled in and shown the face of homelessness that's real, that's painful, and that's hard to manage. And not everybody's going to buy into it. They're going to worry more about homeless animals, and that's a passion of mine too.
Yeah.
They're going to worry about well, you know, all the things that people worry about, and passions to support. But I know there's somebody out there who wants to do something in their community. But for us, funding is the biggest problem. I can find people all day long who want a job, and I look for people who have homeless experience because they are kinder, frankly, and they are wiser about what's going on in the room. They know what to look for. They know the signs. And they need a job. And so it's not a gamble, but maybe the risk is on us to hire somebody who knows the signs and can probably be more helpful. So funding is always important. We use it well and wisely. We have beautiful achievements through GuideStar, and we're very transparent about how we spend our money. Our website is spiritofsantapaula.org. People can support us on the website and, mail checks too. So we're largely funded by donations, and it's pretty amazing that we make it. Another element of our work is food rescue. We have a contract with the state of California through Cal Recycle. We rescue about 2 million pounds of food a year.
Wow.
And they purchase 2 refrigerator trucks for us, and we have volunteers in grocery stores every day of the week throughout Ventura County. And so 2 million pounds of food is a lot. And we serve between 6,000 and 8,000 people every month at our food pantries. So food insecurity is another reason for homelessness, because if the kids aren't fed, everything falls apart in school and in the family environment.
Yeah. Well, Kay, I have to say, it has been, really an honor having you on the show and to bring this topic to our audience and just to give people a feel of, ways that they can get involved, ways they can help, but also just to re-educate all of our mindset around what homelessness is, how this epidemic is taking place, what the face of it looks like. So meaning you said, for example, you're talking about the children, 15 children, 14 children that are in the shelter at this given time. And you're just I'm sitting here thinking about it like, wow, like it's a lot different than maybe the initial perception that I would have had, and maybe many others would have had about what homelessness looks like in the United States. Like you expect this maybe in some other areas, but you don't necessarily always expect this like in our communities, right? Like where we live, like it's just something, it's definitely eye-opening, I'd say. So I have to say, Spirit of Santa Paula is already doing quite a bit. And I know, as with any organization, the goal is always to continue to serve. So what's next? What's next for yourself? What's next for Spirit of Santa Paula?
We just received a grant from the state of California, thanks to Assembly Member Steve Bennett and Monique Limon, our state senator, and they arranged for us to get $1.5 million for building enhancement and enlargement. That will kick off our launch program. We're adding showers, administrative office, classroom. It's pretty exciting for us.
Yeah.
And we're kind of like the low guy on the totem pole, but because we've been so faithful for all these years, people have watched us and they know we will do well with the money. So for myself, I'm going to volunteer as long as I can. 2 years ago, we started a program for succession to make sure that if something happens to me and our top leadership on the board, that people can carry on. The last thing we want is for it to fall apart without a key person. So now we have many key people, and we'll be watching for that next person who steps in and becomes the maybe not the volunteer director, but paid staff who manages a lot of programs and a lot of people.
Amazing. And so, Kay, first off, it's been a great having you on the show. I know you mentioned it once, but I'll have you mention it again. If people want to check out the organization and to learn more, what's the best way for them to do that?
I'm always willing to take a phone call, and my number is 805-340-5025. Many people want to know really how does this work, and I'm happy to talk to them. You can communicate through email to k@spiritsp.org, and our website is spiritofsantapaula.org, and you can communicate via email through our website as well.
Perfect. And to the audience, we'll put all of that contact information in the show notes, so you can just head right on over and just click to check out the website and to get involved. And if this is your first time with us here at Mission Matters, we're all about bringing on entrepreneurs, experts, and executives and having them share their mission, like what gets them fired up, what gets them up in the morning and going out there to make a difference in the world and to the marketplace. If that's the kind of content that interests you, we definitely invite you to subscribe to the show, have many more mission-based individuals coming on, and we don't want you to miss a thing. And Kay, really, it has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing your mission and your passion for what you do and how you're really making a big difference in curbing the homeless epidemic. So thank you, Kay.
Thank you, Adam. Take care today.